All right, well, I am recording the first ever episode of the Brian Sakowicz Show. I just decided I wanted to do a podcast so I can ramble on and on about different things at least once a week. I'm hoping to do this 3 times a week. So let's get this started, and let me tell you a little bit about myself. As I said, my name is Brian Sakowicz. I'm a graphic designer, and I also do Macintosh tech support for companies and people locally here in Central Florida. My graphic design experience, I've been a designer for almost 10 years now. I created some major publications here in the Central Florida area, as well as the state of Florida official roadmap. So if you're ever on Florida's highways and you go to one of the Turnpike welcome stations, you might see a map hanging up there, and I'm the guy who did the layout on it. These days, I'm actually doing t-shirt designs for a company here in Central Florida. I've actually been doing t-shirt designs for about 5 years now. And it's kind of fun. I enjoy it a lot. I'm working on some of my illustrating skills these days. And that's about it about me. I've lived in Florida for about 40 years, actually. Actually, not quite. I was in the United States Marine Corps for 5 years. And we didn't move to Florida until I was about 4. So I've lived in Florida about maybe 35 years. Okay, give or take. So today, as I'm recording this, it's Monday, November 5th. And tomorrow is the election day here in the United States between Mitt Romney and President Barack Obama. I'm not going to go into my political affiliations. That's really nobody's business right now. But I am a designer. But however, I was in the military, so you can go to figure it out yourself. I like our president. I think Mitt Romney's a good guy. I've already voted. I voted about 2 weeks ago, so my ballot is already in. I just wish that once we submitted our ballots, we came off a list so that nobody would call us anymore, or nobody would send us more garbage in the mail. I swear, every other day, I must get 3 flyers from both parties in my mailbox. The reason being is my wife is registered one way and I'm registered the other way. So we get calls from both parties. We get flyers from both parties. It is a nightmare. At this point, I'm like, maybe we should both register Libertarian because I don't think anybody would call us then. Actually, that's not. But then again, if you were to register Libertarian, there's really nothing to do in the primaries except vote on local referendums and stuff. So it's probably not the best idea, because you're kind of taking yourself out of the political process that way, which is really sad. I know there's some states in the country that have open primaries, which I think would be an awesome idea everywhere you go, that everybody from every party gets to select the people that are running for president. But I can see where that would be abused as well. I know, for example, in the early Republican primaries in the United States this year, Michelle Bachmann from Minnesota was running, and a lot of people didn't think too highly of her. So that's a situation where I could see if it was open polling for both parties could vote on both candidates and stuff for the primaries, I could see a lot of Democrats voting for her, because who the heck would want her to run for president? If you're a Michelle Bachmann fan, sorry if I'm upsetting you, but that's the fact. And people from the other party would be most likely to vote for the candidate that they would think would be least likely to win the presidency. So I could see where not having open primaries is a good thing. You get away the good with the bad, I see. Right now, I have actually been working on messing with some Android phones. Well, one type of Android phone. I have an old T-Mobile Samsung Vibrant, which is the original Galaxy S phone. I know you see the commercials these days for the Samsung Galaxy S3, and not too long ago the Galaxy S2. Well, this is the original Galaxy S phone that T-Mobile had. And I want to say we got this 2 years ago this upcoming January. And the last update it got was Android 2.2 Froyo on it. When we got the phone, it had Android 2.1. And it was actually a very good phone. Earlier this year, somebody gave me an HTC Amaze 4G, which actually has Android 4.0 ice cream sandwich on it. And I really like that phone. I like the speed of it. However, I got in my harebrained idea that I've rooted Android phones before. I actually took a old T-Mobile Motorola Click and put Android 2.3 on it, and I gave it away to a friend of mine. So I rooted phones and stuff, and I wanted to root this one because it's been sitting on my shelf for a long time. My wife actually uses a Samsung Vibrant as well. So I figured if this worked well, maybe I would just give her a Samsung Galaxy S phone that's been updated. Well, I actually found on the internet some ROMs that had the ice cream sandwich. Not ice cream, I'm sorry, Jelly Bean, the latest version of Android, available for the Samsung Galaxy S, the original Samsung Vibrant phone. So I said, well, let's give it a stab. So I went ahead and I did the update, and I rooted the phone. I installed the new ROM on it. It wouldn't install for a few times, and then I had to do some crazy stuff. I can't remember how I did it, but it would keep giving an error when I try to install the new ROM. So I figured out a way around that by reading some forums on the internet. And lo and behold, I got Jelly Bean installed on this phone. Well, everything is perfect about it, except, man alive, does it drain the battery. That I was using CyanogenMod 10. So, I mean, it would literally drain the battery inside of 3 hours of being unconnected from a power source. Well, obviously that's kind of useless on a cell phone. So I rolled it back. I installed a different ROM on there for ice cream sandwich, and it seemed to work fine. I mean, I left it unplugged all night long, and it was only down to 12 hours unplugged. It was down about 47% of battery life. And I wasn't using it or anything, but that's not a bad drain for standby mode, I thought. So I'm kind of like, you know what? But I really don't want ice cream sandwich. I really want Jelly Bean. Because Jelly Bean, if you've never seen it, has a feature on it called Google Now. And Google Now actually will learn from you the more you use it. And like if you ask it, what's the score during the Magic game, and you do it often, it'll just start presenting you this information when you need it. So here's an example of what Jelly Bean sounds like. What was the score of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers game? Oop, that's why we didn't plug in USB storage, of course. That was an opportune moment. Hold on. Let's try it again. Sorry. What was the score of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers game?
The Buccaneers beat the Raiders 42-32.
What was the score of the Orlando Magic game? Oh, it didn't hear me well. What was the score of the Orlando Magic game?
The Magic beat the Suns 115-94.
What is the weather outside right now?
It's 73 degrees and mostly cloudy in Apopka.
Set an alarm today for 2 p.m. Oh, I can't say today. So basically, if you're familiar with Siri on the iPhone, it does a lot of the same stuff. But I'm really liking this. Well, the one thing that's got me upset, though, is this is a 2-year-old phone, and I'm getting the latest version of Android on it. Of course, I had to jump through hoops to get it and stuff, but it works great. Now, I put a different Jelly Bean ROM on here last night, or this morning, so I'm going to see how long until it drains out. And if this one gives me better battery life, I'm going to stick with it on this phone. However, this is not my normal phone. My normal phone is an HTC Amaze 4G, which is running Ice Cream Sandwich. Well, HTC puts a interface on the front of it called TouchWiz. And TouchWiz, I really have enjoyed it. Well, last night when I was doing my experiments with this old phone, when I installed a clean Ice Cream Sandwich Android 4.0 ROM on here, boy, the interface is completely different, the straight interface. Well, I'm kind of like not liking the look of my HTC Amaze phone right now. So I'm trying to find a ROM somewhere that I can install on it that will bring that up to Jelly Bean, because I really, 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 really like that voice control on it. I see that Apple came out with the iPad Mini, got actually released in the stores last week. Seems like a nice device. We have one iPad in our house, and I enjoy it. I mean, it's good for sitting around the house and messing around with. Most tablets are that way. I really don't find them that useful in what I do for the most part. And when I go out to clients to do tech support and stuff, it's kind of nice to have that instead of a laptop sometimes. Because if I just need to look up something on the internet really quick, and I don't usually like typing on a phone very much, I'll pull out the tablet, get on their internet access, and I can look something up pretty quick. It's easier than pulling out a laptop, flipping it open, I find. Now, for what I do outside, I mean, when I have to do network troubleshooting and stuff like that, obviously I want to use a laptop. But I find that I'm a desktop kind of person more often than not. My laptop I have here, it's docked 95% of the time, as I do graphic design work. And I use a tablet whenever I'm doing graphic design work. And if I take my laptop out and set it up somewhere, I just find it very inconvenient. So that's my story on that. I mean, as far as tablets, I actually we have a iPad here, and I have a Nook tablet. The Nook tablet, when it's set up standard, it's okay. I mean, their interface is kind of not that good, honestly. I mean, Barnes & Noble, I used the actual Nook HD Plus last weekend at a Barnes & Noble store locally, and I found it to be a much better experience. The HD Plus is huge. It's like a 9-inch tablet, and it weighs nothing. It actually weighs less than my 7-inch Nook tablet I have right now. Great looking device, but it all is going to come down to whether or not their interface on it is worth a darn. I see that Google has the Nexus 7 tablet, which at only $200, which is $130 cheaper than the iPad Mini. It has just straight up Android 4.1 on there, and it's great looking. It's a great looking device. And I see they just released the Nexus 10 tablet, which is like a 9.5-inch tablet, which is only $399, which is $100 less than Apple's iPad. And those look like some great devices. I know Android developers have some work to do to make some of their apps look, I want to say, cleaner. But a lot of the stuff I hear out there where people are complaining about Android versus Apple and the look at the apps and stuff, it's a whole different experience. So you're not going to have the same feel between the apps. If you want the same feel between the apps, well, just buy one device or the other, and then you'll have the same feel. Don't worry about that Android apps are different than iOS apps and vice versa. And deal with it. Speaking of Google and their Nexus devices, they also just released a Google Nexus 4 phone, which I want to say is 4.8 inches in size. It's a good sized phone. And it's top of the line processor and everything. It's manufactured by LG. They're selling it for $299 for an 8 gigabyte and $329 for a 16 gigabyte model. Well, what's so great about that, you say? Because you can get an iPhone 5 for $199. It's $199 subsidized. If you want one off contract, without a contract, you're going to pay $650, $700 for that device. Whereas that price I just told you for the Nexus 4 is off contract. So if you're like me and you're using a low price plan from a carrier and you don't want to have to lock yourself into a 2-year contract and pay a higher fee, you can actually just go buy a Nexus 4 phone for almost the same price you'd pay for a newer high-end phone. And it is a high-end phone, make no mistake about that. My hope is that by Google releasing this phone at that price, it's going to drive competition and cause other manufacturers of phones to want to sell their phones for a less price. I mean, that would be awesome. Can you imagine if you could go buy any phone you want for under $300 and not have to be on a contract? And maybe carriers would fight on price a little bit. I mean, right now, if you're in the United States, you got AT&T and Verizon for your two main carriers. and they are flipping expensive for their service. I've been with T-Mobile for 5 years now, and my service was getting up to $200, and we only have 2 phones. I was like, what the? It would drive me nuts. Well, T-Mobile also has another tier of plans called their value plans, so I about cut my monthly fee in half. So I'm very excited about that. But I can't get subsidized phones anymore, and which is okay because the phones I have right now are great, and especially now I'm rooting them in that. But if I want a new phone, I got to go out and buy it at full price. Well, Google releasing this Nexus 4 phone, I could just go buy one of those off contract and use it. So it's a win-win. I think it's a great thing for consumers, and hopefully it filters down to everybody else down the road. One thing I'm a big passionate fan of, and hopefully as this show goes on, I'll talk more about it. I'll probably drive some of you nuts, and I may just do a different show about it down the road. I'm a huge fan of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers football team and the Orlando Magic basketball team. The Buccaneers, I've actually been a fan of them since their existence. I used to wear orange creamsicle hats and I was in the Marine Corps one time. This is back in the 80s. I used to walk across our base in North Carolina. There'd be snow everywhere. We'd freeze it out. And I'd be walking around the base in an orange creamsicle jacket because I was such a fan of the Buccaneers. It was ridiculous. I mean, I got ridiculed for it bad because, man, for the longest time, the Buccaneers were horrible. Horrible team. Vinny Testaverde was the quarterback back then, and it was painful to watch. When I get to watch the Buccaneers, though, I never miss them. Never would miss their games. Actually, I still don't miss their games when they're on TV. The past 2 years have been a struggle because they have been bad again. Their games haven't been on TV lately due to NFL blackout rules. So this year I've actually gotten to watch like an extra game or two, which I'm very excited about. And the team is looking a lot better. I mean, they're 4-4, which is marketed. Not at this time last year they had about the same record, and then they went to England, and after that they fell apart. So this team actually has a lot of life to it. I mean, their running back Doug Martin, incredible, ran for over 250 yards yesterday. Highest rushing total in a single game in Buccaneer history. Only about 40 yards from the highest total in a single game in NFL history, which would have been incredible. And, I mean, they scored 40-something points yesterday, 41 points. Beat the Raiders 41-31. I was so happy. And then the Magic last night went to 2-0. They're pretty much a team of no-names right now since Dwight Howard left town. And his team, they're 1-3 now, the Lakers, which is such a shame. The worst part about all this is Stan Van Gundy getting fired from the Magic last year. I think he got the short shaft over this whole deal with Dwight Howard. But the Magic look good right now. They run and run and run, and they play with a lot of heart. So we'll see how that goes down the road. Maybe they'll be a better team than they were last year. One can only hope. Well, it's almost 19 minutes into the show. I just wanted to do a little thing today. I really didn't have a lineup of stuff I wanted to go over, and it's just me talking, so that's all there is to that. I'll just keep rambling on and on and on and on. I will talk about technology more likely than anything else on this show, and maybe some sports here and there, because like I said, I love my Bucks and Magic. So after the day after a game, if I'm recording a show, you're going to hear about it. So I hope you all have a wonderful day. Thank you for listening. Right now, I'm only going to be putting this up on YouTube with no video. I'm just going to have like a placeholder image above and you can listen to it on YouTube. I'm hoping in the next 2 weeks I'll set up a site for my show, the Brian Sakowicz Show, and then we can start a feed and everything and then get it up on iTunes. And I'll put up these shows that I do in the interim up on iTunes as well. So hopefully in the next 2 weeks I get this show up on iTunes. My goal is to not swear at all when I do this show, because I'm kind of a guy who likes to cuss and swear a lot. So hopefully I can keep it up, because I want to have a show that one day my son can listen to and I won't feel bad about it. Also, too, I'm hoping to get this integrated with Skype soon, and maybe do live recordings over the internet and have some people call in that I know from far across the land. So that's it for the Brian Sakowicz Show. Thank you for listening today, and have a wonderful day and week until you hear me again. Bye-bye.